All right, Fresh, let's go to our first bowl game. This game is going to be happening on December 27th. It is where they're going to dump a giant tub of mayo on the winning coach. It is the Duke's Mayo Bowl. UNC, North Carolina, the Tar Heels are going up against West Virginia. At time of record, West Virginia is a 6.5-point favorite in this game. Over-under set at 55.5 points. Currently, folks, we got a couple of notable opt-outs here right now. So it's we're trying to keep up to date with this. So here's who our notable opt-outs are. For those of you who've been following North Carolina, Drake May is opting out. He's getting ready for the NFL draft. Tez Walker, their leading receiver, he is also opting out. You take a look at Cedric Gray, the linebacker for UNC, really, really well. Miles Murphy, the defensive lineman out there, also opting out. A couple of defensive backs are opting out as well. On the West Virginia side, it's not as much. There's a couple of backups there. Justin Johnson Jr., he's in the transfer portal. There's a couple of guys who are listed right now on what we're looking at is on as listed as injury. One of, I think, probably the biggest loss for West Virginia would be the safety Hershey McLaurin. He's opting out in this bowl game here. That's what we got right now. Again, these things can change. Fresh, with Drake May not being in this football game, it really becomes the Omarion Hampton show for me. Omarion Hampton, 1,400 yards on the year, 15 touchdowns. We both had him as a post-regular season All-American here. This kid was electric. He may be one of the most exciting running backs going into the 2024 season. But West Virginia does a good job against the run. And they are kind of a bend-don't-break type of defense there. What do you got for us? Is West Virginia going to be able to kind of pull off this upset here?
When I first started looking at this bowl game, obviously you factored in a lot of young guys getting practice time and trying to roll up to the depth chart and get their chance. But the whole season for UNC, in my opinion, has been a failure. You got two 8-4 teams. Their 8-4 is a failure, but West Virginia's 8-4 is a success. And that just shows you the scope of the preseason expectations, the players you got around you, the conference you play in, and where you set the bar for your program, or in better cases, where's the media set the bar for you when you come in. You kind of look at two double overtime wins away from being 8-4 or being 8-4 or being 6-6 for North Carolina. You sort of survived and kept going. You've lost to Virginia and Georgia Tech after being undefeated in back-to-back weeks. Where could the season have gone for them? Had some survival moments. Some other times it caught up with them. Was it all on the offense for Drake May not performing at standards? Was it having the Trez Walker thing laying over this football team for a while and dealing with that distraction off the field, getting him eligible and playing? Or was it the defense not playing up to standard, not getting to where they needed to be? Last year, obviously, they were absolutely horrendous. Gene Chizik came in here. They started seeing some progress early in the year, but it kind of tailed off in the middle of the season. Where does that lay in the balance? Then on the other side, you look at West Virginia. Coach comes in on the super hot seat up there in Morgantown. No one really knows what to expect. Garrett Green was a pretty good quarterback coming back. They had a pretty solid offensive line, but we're still waiting to sort of see how they put that entire team together in the Big 12. And if they held on versus Houston instead of having that heartbreaking loss, this team could have even gone bigger places. They were right in the thick of it. They were making every game competitive, and it's cool to see these two teams kind of facing off. And how do they take regular season to bowl season? How do they deal with some losses to the transfer portal? Who steps up from that depth chart? Because these teams definitely offensively put up a lot of numbers. You look at the Tar Heels, they averaged 503.9 total yards a game, and they ran for a heck of a lot. They threw for over 300 yards, which was tops in the ACC. They were the number one rushing attack at 197, tied with Georgia Tech. This offense for North Carolina can move it up and down, left and right. We thought Longo leaving, going to Wisconsin, how would the air raid blend? Drake May and this offense just kept it going. Like there was no loss from that coaching perspective. The defense, again, was not caught up at the fastest perspective. They could not get themselves all around there. You mentioned Hampton, fantastic stud at running back, really helped, I think, provide a nice little parity to May through the entire season and gave him some balance. Interesting to see how much they're going to carry and lean on him. How much does the bowl game mean to North Carolina? And, just do they want to see Mac Brown get dumped with Mayo at the end of the ball game? That might be motivation enough for the players. We'll kind of see where's that tick. Do they even maybe hold off on Hampton a little bit, sort of rest his body, give him a full year off, get him ready for fall? Next year, more kids are trying to think about NFL prospects, those sort of things. Do they sort of play them off, maybe train some snaps, get some other running backs some action in this football game to help build up that depth chart and moving forward? Defensively, they were 12th in the ACC in total yards allowed at 405, ninth in the ACC in points allowed at 27. And sadly, that's actually kind of an improvement from what they were the year before. It's not much, but it was slightly improved. Where can Gene Chiswick in this game and going forward into year 3 really take strides? Do they use the transfer portal to build up this defense? I think that's more important. The offense, they're going to find dudes. If you have an offensive line, you can find playmakers, but you need some guys on the other side to stop somebody. Do they see some kids show up during bowl practice and in this game and make plays, make some tackles, take advantage of the opportunity to get on the field and some playing time and use some of the adjustments, use some of that youth? Because right now, if I'm Mac Brown and Gene Chiswick, I think every single starting spot, every single two deep on that North Carolina defense should be wide open. So that's what I'm kind of watching also is which of these guys wants to step up and really supplant themselves as that number 1 first team starter going into spring practice to really maybe help this defense improve and take a big step next year. On the other side, West Virginia, they are running down these country roads. The best rushing attack in the Big 12, averaging 234, 6th best offense in the Big 12, averaging 438 a game, and they're scoring 31.6 points a game. Their defense is also only given up 384 and 27 points. So they're not exactly the lockdown defense, but they've been in the middle of the pack in the Big 12 from that perspective. There should be a lot of points in this football game unless one of these defenses really has some players step up during practice. Garrett Green been fantastic all year for the Mountaineers, throwing over 2,000 yards, 15 touchdown passes, run for 708 and 13. Definitely a dual. I mean, he's defined the dual threat mentality and putting up points left and right. But he's also been blended with C.J. Donaldson and Heem White at running back, both over 700 yards rushing. One has 11 touchdowns, one has 3. The 2 running back combination with Green, that gives you a heck of a backfield. I got a feeling they're going to continue to keep doing it all year round. Run all over Carolina. Keep this thing on the ground. This game actually might go really fast because both teams are going to keep it on the ground, run the ball a lot, and defenses have been suspect all year. So expect a lot of points, a lot of yards on the ground. My bold even prediction is that we might even see combined 600 yards rushing between both these teams just because they have so much talent in the backfield. They keep plowing ahead. One other thing I'm also kind of looking at is Beanie Bishop from West Virginia. Does he actually play? He's a heck of a corner. He's a senior. Does he opt out last minute, or does he want to go out there and get himself a bowl win for Mountaineer Nation? Lockdown guy. I think he's definitely potentially has a good opportunity to be a day 2 pick in the NFL draft. So keep an eye on him. If he plays, it's awesome. If not, I totally understand it coming to this ball game. I have West Virginia covering the 6.5. I think they win by 10. I think their defense just does enough, and their offense is consistent enough to keep up with them. The Drake May loss and the Tez Walker loss for that Carolina offense is going to be a little painful for them to handle in this ball game. Definitely also the over is going to hit. These defenses aren't going to be, locking it down. I'm going to see a lot of points, a lot of rushing yards, and it's going to be a fun one in Charlotte.
Fresh, I've missed talking about West Virginia football, man, because I really do love everything about the Mountaineers and West Virginia here. From getting to sing country roads to the fan base, they have such a passionate group of fans. It's one of the best home field advantages in college football there in Morgantown. We got a lot of respect for the Mountaineers and for their fan base. And it's just something that, 2 years ago when we started this podcast, West Virginia got off to a real hot start. We got to talk about them a few times. And then last year, they really kind of, floundered along the way. And there was a lot of talk that Brown would be the first coach fired out of college football this year, and wound up having just a heck of a year. Like, really, you take a look at their 4 losses on the season: Penn State, Oklahoma State, and Houston. And that Houston's a 2-point loss there that came down to, if I recall correctly, a miracle play at the end of that football game. It was a miracle,
like 3 touchdowns, like a minute and a half. Yeah.
Right. And you think about it, like West Virginia had a really a great year for them on their standards. Like if I'm a Mountaineer fan, I'm sitting there going, we won games that probably a lot of people didn't think we would win, and we lost the games that were talent-wise, the teams were substantially better than us. You weren't going to talent up with Penn State. You weren't going to talent up with Oklahoma. You were going to be probably pretty competitive against them. Oklahoma State, maybe I would say that might be a little more closer in that talent gap there. But West Virginia, you guys overachieved. You need to give you your props there. West Virginia is going to run the football in this football game. And I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of passing. You take a look at you take a look at what Garrett Green's done. He's only thrown the ball 254 times. And then you take a look at their rushing attack. They've run the ball over 530 times on the season there. Yaheem White and CJ Donaldson are an absolute beast of a tandem together. Donaldson at the end of the year was kind of nursing that injury. The last 2 games, he didn't play a whole lot. White jumped in. He had 2 remarkable games at the end of the season, just completely blowing the doors off of this place. He's got to have the Mountaineers fan base very, very excited. Without Miles Murphy, without Gray for UNC, I think this game is going to get ugly kind of fast for them because you're going to have to step up. You don't have your big play wide receiver in Walker. Your quarterback isn't Drake May anymore, who's an NFL talent. No knock against the guys behind him, but I'm just saying you're not going to replace Drake May that easily. Mac Brown's not going to be able to do it. I think West Virginia caps off this great season. I think we're singing country roads the entire time. We're talking about the Blue Ridge Mountains. We're talking about Shenandoah River. Life is old there. It's older than the trees, but we're younger mountains and fresh. This team is growing like a breeze. So take me home, country roads. I got West Virginia covering the 6.5, and I'll take the over as well. I think this is going to be a lot of points in this football game.
All I had to do was close my eyes, and I just heard John Denver right there with an Ohio accent. That was beautiful.
Yeah, that John Denver's full of. I just won't finish that one.